Everyone. We'll be discussing about Human Genome Project. In this, we'll talk about structural genomics and genetic mapping. So, as we all know that genetic maps earlier were based upon chromosome recombination and linkage maps. So, Alfred Sturtevant, he created the first genetic map from fruit fly Drosophila melanogaster in 1913. And as we know that the genes, the chromosomes before undergoing the process of reproduction, they undergo crossing over in meiosis 1 and prophase 1. So this crossing over basically results in exchange of genetic segments between homologous chromosomes. And we know that if the genes are farther apart on the chromosome, they are more likely to participate in the process of recombination, while the genes which are very close to each other, they tend to inherit together in a linkage group. So genes were the first markers to be used. The first genetic map of earlier decades of 20th century, that they were all based upon genes as markers, and genes were thought to be responsible for transmission of heritable characteristics from parents to offspring. And to be useful in genetic analysis, it is very important that we have a phenotypic characteristic, a heritable characteristic that can exist in two alternative form. That is, we are capable of differentiating phenotype which are actually dependent upon the genotypes. So Mendel has shown that if there are two alternative forms of an allele like tall and dwarf, that is a plant height character. So we know that if there is capital T, that will give us the tall phenotype, and if there is capital T and small t, that will also give us the tall phenotype. So in homozygous dominant type, it will give us tall phenotype, and if it is heterozygous and the presence of dominant gene is there, then also it will give us tall phenotype. So phenotypic data was easily correlatable with genotypic data in the case of Mendel's experiments. So like that, we need to have genotypic data which can be correlated with phenotypic data. And we know that each phenotype is specified by a different allele of the corresponding gene. So if we compare phenotype and genotype, we can study only genes for which phenotype is easily distinguishable, like in the form of disease or in the form of a different trait. Like for example, in Drosophila, in the case of Drosophila, if it is body color, eye color, wing shape, or such visible phenotypic characters. Same thing is in human beings also. If we want to map the genes, we need to have a very unique characteristic of phenotypes which can be easily seen. It also can be disease. Because of that, this disease inheritance and disease mapping was initially planned for genetic mapping. So in humans, the genome is very huge, and as compared to this huge genome, the portion of our DNA which actually represent gene is very small. So one thing is that the fraction of genes is so small, so the map which we would be creating by using genes as markers, they will be very less, and we won't be getting saturated map for our usage. Second problem is that very few number of characters are visible whose inheritance can be studied, and rest character is the characters are complicated. And we all know that one trait is not controlled by a single gene. Mendel was extremely lucky in his experiment that his characteristics, they were controlled by a single gene. But in the case of humans, we don't have characters or traits which are controlled by a single gene. So these traits are actually controlled by many genes. So to make gene maps more comprehensive, it would be necessary to find characteristics that are more distinctive than visual traits. So DNA markers for genetic mapping. So human gene, when it was realized that genetic maps did not have to be based on genes, so that was a very big realization. And we all know that mutation is a random process. For any one type of human chromosome, the DNA sequence varies from one chromosome copy to another at about one nucleotide in 1000 on an average. So if there are two human beings also, so there is random mutations, and because of this, every 1000 nucleotide there will be one change. So only a tiny fraction of this variation causes mutant phenotype, and a majority of these mutations or these changes, they occur in the region which is non-coding or within introns. So once the assays are developed to track this type of DNA polymorphism, framework maps based on DNA markers, they could be established. So these were the limitations which we have already discussed, that only a fraction of the total number of genes exist in allelic form, and gene maps are not very comprehensive. We need other types of markers. So as we discussed that the mutation is a random process, and every 2 human beings will have random mutations which can be easily analyzed. So genetic maps could have been based upon the DNA markers. So for this, the DNA markers which were used were restriction fragment length polymorphism, RFLPs, simple sequence length polymorphism, SSLPs, and single nucleotide polymorphism. So initial framework maps were based on genetic markers, then high density. So marker maps with a suitably high density, they were developed. Now to build framework maps, clone maps were essentially required. So DNA clone maps we have already discussed in the structural genomics physical mapping. They involve identifying and arranging DNA clones in linear order that corresponds to original linear order within the chromosome of the clone DNA sequences. So comprehensive clone maps for each chromosome provided the final substrate for the genome sequencing that could deliver us the ultimate physical map as at a resolution of 1 base pair. Now in genetic mapping, as with any type of map, we will need to know about the geographical landscapes like rivers, roads, buildings and all. So likewise, when we talk about DNA, then it is essentially required that when we are talking about DNA maps, then we need to have when we are walking along the chromosome, then we need to have markers which can help us, which can guide us through walking on the DNA with various flag marks. So once you approach this flag mark, it means okay, this gene is residing close to this point. So once you approach this particular flag mark, then it shows okay, this gene is located here or this gene is located here, and this flag mark is very closely associated with or linked with this particular gene. So that kind of framework map is required, which is fulfilled now by the use of genetic markers. So now here, as we can see, this is human chromosome, which shows the DNA banding pattern of the chromosome, and in this red color we see that this is comprehensive radiation hybrid map. So we have already discussed that radiation hybrid maps, they were assayed for the presence of different STS, and basically clone contig maps were developed by use of radiation hybrid map. And then this blue shows the high confidence bin, in which it is assumed that these markers will be residing in these particular bins. Now this green one shows genetic markers with comprehensive map. So green one was with genetic markers, and these purple one were express sequence tag markers. So likewise, as you can see, this map is very dense in such that we have the positions of these radiation hybrid map, different markers which are placed here. Then we have gene markers whereby different genes are mapped, and then we have EST markers which are closely associated with the genes. So these markers are there. So likewise, you can see that different chromosomes have been saturated with different markers, and presence of these markers, it helps us navigate along the chromosome. So if we want to, let's say, analyze this particular region of the chromosome, so these markers which are very closely associated with this region will help us analyze this particular region of the chromosome. So likewise, different maps for different chromosomes are being created. These are different maps which are being created. So restriction fragment length polymorphism, they were the earlier gene maps, and we all know that restriction enzyme cuts DNA molecules at a specific recognition sequence. So this means that if we treat the DNA molecule with a particular restriction enzyme, it will give a fixed pattern. Wherever the site will be present, it will cut. If the site will be not present, it will not cut. Now there are few sites which are specific, and we can easily distinguish between two different alleles based on the presence or loss of the restriction site. For example, if we see this diagram, we see that there are 3 restriction enzyme site, and this one this is allele 1, that these are two homologous chromosomes. So in allele 1 the site is present, resulting in 4 fragments, but in allele 2, because there is mutation, then the site is lost. So a mutation can result in creation of a restriction site, or it can also result in the loss of restriction site, resulting in the polymorphism in the fragment length, giving us a unique RFLP pattern. And we can see the difference in the bands of these fragments on the page electrophoresis. So they were the first RFLPs were the first genetic maps which were used. So we have discussed that single nucleotide change can result in creation or loss of restriction site. It can be typed by hybridization based or PCR based. Earlier they were typed by hybridization based assays, but now with advancement in the technology, PCR is quite powerful to type RFLP based RFLPs, different RFLPs present in the genes. So for this, a specific primer for a specific site is designed, and the genes are amplified using PCR using specific primer. And then the amplicons, which are amplified sequences, they are digested with restriction enzymes. Now after digestion, we either get a particular fragmentation pattern because of the presence of the restriction site, or we get a different fragmentation pattern because of the loss of restriction site. And then these restriction enzymes can be marked on the chromosomal DNA, as we saw for the other markers which were assigned position on the chromosomal DNA. So these were polymorphic. They could be assayed in all members of variety of multi-generation families. And then genotypes were analyzed by computer, that how alleles of different markers segregate at each meiotic event, connecting parent to their offspring. Then markers were identified where specific alleles they co-segregated. So this was the basis of creation of genetic map. Then the second map, because RFLPs are not very abundant, their number is quite less. Initially only 393 RFLPs were used. So they were also not very polymorphic, because RFLP has only 2 alleles. So either the restriction site is present or the restriction site is absent. So to create useful genetic map, a higher density map was needed with markers that were more polymorphic. So second generation human genetic maps were based on different classes of DNA markers, which were microsatellite. So microsatellite DNA is the name that is given to a short tandemly repeated DNA sequences. The repeat unit can be 1 to 4 nucleotide long, like we have A, AG, 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 ACG, 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 or ACGT, ACGT, like that. So we can have 1 to 4 nucleotide long, and they were common in human genome. And then individual microsatellites quite often have a large number of repeats, making them unstable, so that number of repeat unit varies. So microsatellites are abundant and easier to type than other markers. Microsatellites, they were unstable, and because of their instability, during DNA replication, they tend to vary in number between individuals. So because of their variable number, they were easy to type and they were easy to identify. Like here we see, this is a simple sequence length polymorphism. So we have allele 1. In allele 1, the motif GA is repeated 3 times, but in allele 2, the motif GA is repeated 5 times. So when the motif is repeated 3 times and when the motif is repeated 5 times, that means we will be able to, because this will be a larger fragment, we will be able to identify it on the gel. So microsatellites were highly polymorphic, and multiple alleles can be distinguished by using a PCR based assay. So first human linkage map based on microsatellite markers were published in 1992 with 814 markers, and corresponding to roughly 1 marker per 3.5 MB. So by 1994, an integrated genetic map, mostly based on microsatellite but containing some other markers, had a marker density close to 1 per megabase. Let's see another example for this. So this is allele 1, this is allele 2, this is allele 3. So CA repeat is 13 in this, CA repeat is 16, CA repeat is 11. So this is 40 base pair flanking sequence. So 80 for 40 and 40. And this 13 and 13, because these are two, this is 13 base pair repeat, but they are double, this is dinucleotide repeat. So it will become 26. So it will result in the formation of 106 base pair fragment. Here we have 16. So 16 plus 16, because this is again a dinucleotide. So 80 plus 16 plus 16 will give us 112 base pair sequence. Here this microsatellite motif has 11 repeats. So 40 plus 40 and 11 plus 11 will give us 102 base pair. So we can see that the differences in the repeat motifs will result in the formation of different sized band on the DNA in the gel, and they are easily identifiable. So microsatellites, these are short tandem repeat, loci is fixed and the site is with sequence having specific location. These markers can be typed with PCR and agarogel electrophoresis, can be localized either on contiguous clone, radiation hybrid or YAC clone. These are common in human genome, and very large repeats are not used because of replication slippage. So we have already discussed that linkage markers in 1992, the first linkage map based on microsatellite was published with 814 markers. The important category of markers which were very abundant, they were single nucleotide polymorphism, and these single nucleotide polymorphism, these basically result from shrimp shift mutation, and they also have two allele, but their number is very abundant in the genome. So for example, in allele 1 this is G, and in allele 2 this is C. So this is a single nucleotide change, and this is the original sequence and this is the mutated version. So SNPs were the next markers which were largely used. So genetic maps could be established readily based on mutant genes by crossing mutants. So inheritance of individual phenotype could be tracked through generations. If mutant phenotype shows a tendency to be inherited together, so underlying genes could be expected to be reasonably close and linked on the same chromosome. Recombination between linked loci would provide a measure of physical distance separating the two genes. So DNA markers, as we discussed, DNA markers were used in genetic map because genes were not very abundant, and many of the genes were not showing the single phenotypic character. So polymorphic markers were assayed in members of multi-generation pedigree to identify groups of linked markers, thus that must map to the same chromosome. Non-polymorphic markers can be placed on marker map by using PCR to assay the markers in the panel of radiation hybrid cells or in the panel of YAC clones. We have already discussed it in the structural genomics physical mapping part. So these common markers which were used in physical mapping, they were STS markers. So in early 1990s, attempts were made to obtain partial sequences from the 3' untranslated region of many cDNA clones. So these were actually express sequence tags or ESTs. Since 3' UTRs are rarely have introns, so PCR assay based on EST sequence can be used to type genomic DNA. And large scale mapping of EST against panel of radiation hybrid produced first comprehensive human gene map that was published in 1998. In this, the position of nearly 30,000 human genes was identified in this particular map. This showed that human genes were not uniformly distributed along or between chromosomes, but there were differences. So HGP Human Genome Project was focused exclusively on the remaining euchromatic region, and these accounted for 90% of the human genome because heterochromatin region was rich with repetitive sequence. So in 2001, the map was with gaps. In 2003, 2.85 GB of accurate arranged in contig was released, but there were interrupted, the maps were interrupted with 341 gaps. So some of these gaps which were published in 2001, they were structural gaps. So problems was with repetitive DNA, and the second problem which was encountered was non-structural gaps. So non-structural gaps means somehow when the people were working on radiation hybrids or yeast artificial chromosome or bacterial artificial chromosome or the plasmid vectors, these some of the sequences were missed. They were not cloned in any of the vectors which were used for sequencing and marker determination purposes. So these were non-structural gaps. So this was there. So genetic mapping was required to localize genes under observable phenotype, which we already discussed. Meiosis results in at least one crossover in each arm of each pair of synapse homologous chromosomes. Genes that are close together tend to travel together during meiosis. Farther the genes are, they are liable to separate through crossovers between them. Genetic map identifies genetic distance between two loci and is defined as the frequency with which recombination separates them during meiosis. They are measured as fraction of gametes that are recombinant A recombination fraction of 0.01 corresponds to 1% recombination and a genetic distance of 1 centimorgan. So recombination fractions never exceeds 0.5, because if the recombination fraction exceeds 0.5, it is possible that where in between the two genes, wherever this recombination frequency is being measured, that is either located very far apart on the same chromosome, or they are altogether located on two different chromosomes. So genetic maps were collinear with physical maps. So here we see that these are parental combinations, these are the offsprings, and these shows non-recombinant, this shows recombinant based upon the presence of the genes which they have. And likewise, this is occurring because of the crossing over process. So like this, the crossing over process will result. So by finding out how often various characteristics are inherited together, it was possible to estimate the distance between the genes. A map of where the genes are in relationship to each other on the chromosome can then be drawn, and this was called as linkage map. So genes that are on the same chromosome, they were said to be linked, and the distance between these genes is said linkage distance. The smaller the distance, the more likely is that the two genes will be inherited together. The same concept of studying how traits are passed on was applied to develop the first human genome map. If two or more characteristics were seen to be frequently inherited together in a family, for example, blonde hair and blue eyes. So like if the blonde hair is present and the blue eyes are simultaneously present, so it suggests that genes for the two characteristics, they were close together on a particular chromosome. So these are some of the characteristics which are shown on the chromosomes for Drosophila. So modern genetic map, they are based both on the genes, on the pedigree analysis, and on the basis of DNA markers that we just discussed. So with more recent genetic mapping technique, the position of gene is worked out from finding the exact frequency of genetic recombination that has occurred. To produce a genetic map, researchers collect blood or tissue samples from members of a family, some of whom have certain disease characteristics. So these blood sample is collected. Then the DNA is isolated from each individual, and it is closely examined to find unique patterns in the DNA of those individuals with the disease characteristics, so that aren't present in the DNA of the individuals who don't have the disease characteristics. So these are referred to as marker, and they are extremely valuable for tracking inheritance of characteristics or diseases through several generations of a family. So microsatellite is found throughout the genome and consists of specific repeat sequences. So if a particular gene is close to a DNA marker on the chromosome, it is more likely that the gene and marker will stay together during the recombination process, and therefore they are more likely to be passed down along the family line together. In the same way, if the DNA marker and gene are frequently separated by the recombination, it suggests that they are far apart on the chromosome and they are less likely to be inherited together. So the more DNA markers that are on genetic map, the more likely is that one of them will be located close to the disease or trait associated with disease. So this is how the markers are tagged to the trait or phenotypic gene. So that is called as trait tagging. While genetic maps are good at giving us the bigger picture, but they have limited accuracy and therefore need to be supplemented with further information gained from other mapping techniques such as physical mapping. So here again we will see how this recombination mapping is done. So recombination will rarely separate loci that lie very close to each other on the chromosome. Linkage analysis requires us to be able to score meiosis as recombinant or non-recombinant. Families are collected where Mendelian disease is segregating and genotyping them with an informative marker. Overall likelihood of the pedigree on the alternative assumption that the loci are linked, so recombination fraction is theta, or they are not linked, recombination fraction is 0.5. So the overall likelihood and then the ratio of these two likelihoods, it gives the odds of linkage, and logarithm of the odds, that is the LOD ratio, that is logarithm of odds ratio, and this is denoted by Z. So Z score or LOD score of +3, the linkage is accepted. If the Z is less than 2, the linkage is rejected. So positive LOD score, they support linkage, and negative LOD score reject linkage. And in this case, CEPH families were used to construct marker framework map. So these are center-detude due polymorphism humane. Markers can be studied in families which have plenty of children. These CEPH families supplied samples and markers or group of markers. They were typed in multi-generation families. The group of markers that were together were assigned a particular linkage group. Different linkage groups were made. Markers after markers were typed in a member of multi-generation family. Still, the positive LOD score was obtained. So once the positive LOD score was obtained, the marker was assigned a position which was close to the trait. So with the help of physical mapping, they were assigned a specific chromosome, and genetic mapping and collectively with physical mapping helped in human genome map. So these are selected readings for this genetic mapping.